Welcome to Without Regret, the podcast. This podcast is for people who are looking for inspiration to overcome obstacles in life and want to see that it is possible to live your best life and become successful, whatever that means to you, regardless of your circumstances. Hear from me and my guests as we share our stories of perseverance. My name is Tamara, and I'm the host of Without Regret, the podcast. Today, I'm honored to have Damon Nichols, the best-selling author of The Breakout Blueprint. Damon's life has been a roller coaster of challenges, from battling addiction to navigating the complexities of the criminal justice system. Despite spending years behind bars and facing life-changing trauma, Damon refuses to let his past define him. Instead, he's embarked on a courageous journey of self-discovery and personal growth, confronting the darkest corners of his life to emerge as a beacon of resilience and inspiration. Through sheer determination and unwavering perseverance, Damon not only overcame his demons, but also transformed his life, becoming a successful entrepreneur and embracing a meaningful international existence. Join us as Damon shares his powerful story of redemption, resilience, and the profound lessons he's learned along the way. Get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and motivated to live life without regret.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I'm excited to hear, not so much necessarily about what happened, what you've been through and what you've overcome, but how you overcame it and where you are today and what you're doing today. So let's start, wherever you'd like to start with your journey.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's been a long journey. I guess most of it, I started becoming successful, and that would have probably been around 2015. My life had kind of fallen apart up to that point. I'd gone through so many different cycles of just, dealing with addiction, going down the same roads, going through the same cycle, doing the same thing over and over again. I would get clean for a little while, and I would think, oh, I got this under control. And pretty soon my addiction's taken control. It's crept in, and it's taken every aspect of my life. And each time since I was a little kid, the cycles got worse and worse and worse. And this last time, it just was the end, and in my mid 40s, and I couldn't go down those roads anymore. So after having, a horrible run-in with the law, that was my need to change. I don't think I would have, eventually I would have either ended up dead. There wouldn't have been an outside force. But I had hated where I was at in life and who I had become. And I just decided that at that point, what do I got to do to make changes? And all of these other times, I never really looked for the resources. I either got clean because I had to, was in jail, prison, some kind of a treatment center or whatever. But it wasn't until I started looking for somebody to help me, like a sponsor, like AANA, part of that program is a sponsorship program. I did go through that, but I also wanted more. And so but at the same time, I also, not only did I want to quit going down those same roads of being an addict, I was tired of, living a life of living paycheck to paycheck. And because it all kind of went hand in hand, living a poor mentality, punching a clock, doing all this stuff. And it had taken a toll on me. And I decided that I wanted to change everything in my life and become a completely different person. So I started finding people that were doing what I wanted to do, and I started reaching out to them. I found sober people. I started reaching out to them. They helped me find, resources. But as I started getting into groups, it kind of all happened together because I wanted to get into real estate too. And I started getting into these groups and these mastermind groups, and I started realizing there's a whole nother world out there that I never even realized. And it's not the same people that I've had in my life all my life, because the people that I've had in my life have always been, you know, not so savory characters. You start getting ahead and they're gonna bust you down, or they don't they don't see a future, or it's just they live day to day, and it's all about feeding an addiction. But the people that I started getting involved with, these groups, they're all about helping each other. And I never knew that before. I never saw that with the groups of people that I was involved with. People weren't out to try to help others become successful. And then when you start seeing success, they're really cheering you on, and they're like, "Yeah, let's see how successful you can get." That was new to me, because every time I would start getting success, I have people that were, all the people around me, they didn't like it. When you start breaking away from the pack, they don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had
Misery loves company.
yeah. So I had to completely get away from all of those, just that entire lifestyle. So it was a severed. Everything in my life was severed. Like the people that I knew, the places where I went, all of it, and some of it was it happened because I was left homeless. I didn't have a place to go. I slept in my truck for one winter. That's what I did, is I stayed in my truck and I did whatever I could do to get by. But I knew that if I ever went back to any one of those people that I knew before, that it would be detrimental to everything in my life. So it was a rough go to um, do that. But I think finding those resources and finding that, and that's what I want to do, is I want to help people, show them that there's so much out there. I had to find most all of this stuff on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in this world, and I know that there's something completely different exists than what I've been used to my whole life. I want to show this to people. But one of the things I am finding is you might show it to people, and people aren't ready. They got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to, is you got to change. I have a lot of the guys that work for me. I'm always trying to give them incentive, and get them to change and do something better with their lives. I've even offered them, like $500. If you quit smoking for a month, I'll give you $500. I got a couple guys that drink a lot of soda. And I offered them the same thing. If you can go a month without that, I'll give you $500. And I think I had one person do that, but now they're smoking again. So
they do it just to get the money, and then they're back to smoking. Yeah.
well, they tried for a while, maybe 2 months, but then they go back to, smoking's a really hard one.
Yeah. I'm a former smoker.
Yeah, and that's hard, because I went through that too. I smoked for 10 years, and I chewed tobacco for 25 years, and
Mm-hmm.
those were probably a couple of the hardest things to kick. So
Yeah,
but
it's true though what you say, that people have to be ready for it. They have to almost be seeking it out for themselves for it to really be meaningful.
yeah, well, that's the first part, is being intentional. And
Yeah.
when you realize,
Yes.
what do I want to do in my life? What
Yes.
do I want to do? Then you start taking those steps, and every day put a little, give yourself a little bit of a marker or a goal for that day. And that's kind of how I started. I like, what am I going to do today that's going to make me better? And as I started learning all these little things, like these little principles, they sounded like little stupid cliche things at the time, but they all, as I started applying them, they all started really working, like the 1%. What can I do to be 1% better today? How can I cut 1% of something out of my life? If I just stop one little thing. So
Baby steps.
yeah, but I think in the beginning for me, it was like a massive leap. I had to take that massive leap and then start all of the baby steps, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it comes down to surrounding yourself with the people that are doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's kind of the bottom line. And now the people in my life are everybody's, they're constantly trying to help each other, hold each other accountable. And it's like, what, let's share a win. You know, everybody, let's share a win today. What did you do today that's, you know, a win that maybe others can take away from it? So that's been a great experience for me.
Where did you find those groups? Or
So
how did you find them?
okay, so it all kind of happened by accident because I was really trying to get into real estate. I didn't know the first thing about real estate. I knew how to rehab houses, and I went to this little flip this house thing, and I knew that it was they were trying to sell you a program, and I bought their $300 program, and I went to their 2-day event, and it was a life changer for me because at this program there was the people that were putting it on and some of the speakers, they were talking about um, like the mindset, when you change the mindset. But it was just that one group. I could tell these people thought completely different than I thought. You know, they had their thoughts around money, their thoughts around business, their thoughts around like everything was completely different. But I knew that I liked it, and I liked what they were doing. So it was just that one real estate group, and that's what I, you know, if I could say anything to anybody, spend the money and go to one of these events.
Yeah.
It's life changing. I go to them all the time, and now I'm actually going. I speak at them, and so yeah, so it's great. But you see a completely different, you know, type of people. So that's kind of how I got started, with just going to a real estate event
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the people there. Because it doesn't really matter what kind of an event you go to, whether it's like a real, because I've gone to real estate, tax lien events, I go to master buying events, different kinds of leveling up business events, but they'll all have, you know, maybe one or two speakers that don't really talk about the topic, but it's more about, you know, this is a journey that I've gone through to become successful. So you start seeing these patterns and seeing this whole different way of life.
So I think that I know we both said that it is true that people have to want to change, but I think it's also possible, and I don't know if you have done this, or you know, I know you said you've cut ties with those people from your past, but do you ever think about wanting to show them, look, this is what's possible? Like they know you personally, right? Like, of course, there's stories of people out there that people don't know that, yeah, okay, they rags to riches, they made it, they did whatever, but that's not me. That's not my kind of people. I'm not, you know, in that circle, but they know you personally, right? So do you ever go think about showing them, like saying, look, I'm a real true, like, you know me, and look, this is what's possible, and
Yeah,
maybe just to spark something in them?
yeah. So some of that is already happening because I've had people that
Good.
I haven't seen in years that are starting to reach out to me and be like, man, I really, I've been following you, you know, and people that I knew in high school or junior high that I went to school with, I haven't talked to in over 30 years, that have been following me for a while. And,
Mhm.
you know, recently I've had more people reach out to me because now I'm more out on social media and
Mhm.
starting to get out and get known and I'm getting a lot of followers and stuff. But some of these people are reaching out and being like, yeah, I see your journey and I really want, what can I do? So I am trying to help. And I know that the ones that really want it will reach out to me. You know, I still see
Yes.
people on Facebook and stuff. They're doing the same thing. They're posting the same stuff, and they're involved with the same groups of people.
Right.
Like that.
But they have visibility into what's going on with you. I have no idea why social media didn't even cross my mind. In my mind, when I was asking the question, I'm visualizing you going back to the streets and like, hey, look at me now.
Well, so that's that. I kind of have. So a couple weeks ago, after about 6 months of trying, I finally got accepted and got to go back to one of the prisons here in it was I think the Crowley County Correctional Facility. So I got to go.
Where are you? Are you in Florida?
No, I'm in Colorado too.
Oh, you're also in Colorado. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went to Crowley County Correctional Facility. I got to come in and be a guest speaker in one of their. They have a course there called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
And they were a graduating class. So I got to come and become a guest speaker there. And it was so awesome because that's the first time that I ever walked through the front door of a prison and walked back out the door of a prison. So
voluntarily.
Yeah, voluntarily. The last time I went to one of those places, I was in handcuffs and shackles. So it was a wonderful experience, and to be able to share my story with these guys. And I could see after I was done, so many of them came up and they're like, man, I really want, how can I change? And I want what you've got, I want it. Yeah. I want this life. So I'll probably be connecting with some of them when they get out, but they've also put my book in the prison too. So yeah, it's going to be part of that prison, and hopefully I can get it throughout all of the prison systems. So in Colorado, I don't know if that's possible, but at least I got the seed planted, and it's a start.
Yeah. So tell me about your book. What is it? What is it about?
Well, it's called a Breakout Blueprint, and it's just all about my journey and kind of the steps that I had to take to go from being on the streets to being a successful business owner, having a successful relationship. I have a great relationship with my wife, my kids, so and it wasn't like that. It wasn't always like that. It was pretty rough for the first few years. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of unhealed trauma for both of us.
Right.
But anyway, I just kind of I talked about the steps that I did, and it was all kind of as I started getting my health and started feeling better about myself and taking these positive steps and learning more about real estate. And every time I would do a deal, I became a little bit more confident and started to like who I was becoming. And so as I progressed through there, I just kind of I basically put this book together so it would be a real easy read, simple for somebody that's maybe trying to go from the 9-to-5 world, or go from maybe get out of prison and don't know what they want to do with their lives. But I also show them in there that there's a few little things that you can do to start with a little bit of money and to start investing in yourself, and to where in 3 to 5 years you can completely leave all of the job world behind and become successful in different ways. So there's a little bit of that in there. So I'm putting together a course, and I'm putting together some material to kind of help people go through that.
So your focus though is to help them just become successful business people. So you're not looking to help people get off of drugs or.
Well, yeah. So my main focus is I want to help people become successful by removing stumbling blocks that are caused by unresolved trauma, because it doesn't matter where it's at, because it's like we put up this barrier as we get hurt as children, and we continue to carry this armor with us to keep us protected, and we just keep piling it on, and we don't realize that, okay, well, maybe I don't need to fight that battle anymore, but you're still wearing the armor that needed for that battle. But like when you start taking that off and identifying, okay, I don't need my ego anymore. Like that served me well maybe when I was in prison to be macho and ego because it kept people from hurting me. But it doesn't serve me in the business world. Like I have to completely. So those are like a lot of the little tools and tricks that I learned, but basically healing these traumas and healing these little things. Most people don't even realize that, things happen to them. Why do you react the way you react when someone cuts you off, or when your phone doesn't work, or when you don't get the answer that you want? Because that's something that's triggering that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're bringing about a self-awareness
Very, very
for
much.
them.
Yes, yes. And that's really what I want to do is help people become aware of what's going on, and then they can go back and say, all right, what can I do to heal this and get past it? Because you got to feel it to heal it. So when you go back and you feel that, like a lot of times we know that happened, but when you actually go back to that event, you can be like, okay, wow, my mom left, my there was a nasty whatever, and I didn't realize that, a lot of my anger and like I freak out because something didn't go right was because I don't have control. And that stems from I didn't have control over my life. The person that I needed love from the most wasn't there. So I had this big loss of control. And so then that just, has been amplified in my life, and it's caused me a lot of problems. So I want to help people like identify those things.
That's fantastic.
And
I'm noticing your shirt. It says strength under stress.
yes.
What is that?
So that's our apparel company. And so we came up with this. We went to an event out in New Jersey a while back. No, we went to California. It was an event out in California with Josh Brisbane, Savage Syndicate event. And his son, and well, my son too, seemed like a lot of the youngsters say that, yeah, it looks sus. And it's kind of a word that I've heard a lot. But my wife and my two business partners, Jake and Katie, me and Jake were sitting in the airport, and we're like, sus, and we want to make this, but we want to make a slogan that people are saying, but we want to turn it into something that's really positive. And so we kind of came up with this in the LAX airport, but the U on here is customizable. So we change colors. So we sponsor a pro fighter too. Her name's Brittany Camosi. She's out of Denver. She's with Factory X MMA, and we have an orange shirt. It's a U with an orange U, which represents MS. So every shirt that we sell that has that, so we give back money to MS. We have like pink ones that go to breast cancer, and then so one of our other people in our company has got another sub company. It's called Operation Pink Butterfly, and then so some of that goes to for women that have dealt with like abusive relationships and stuff. So we partner with different people. We just gave a whole bunch of money to the Danny Boy Foundation which is a scholarship fund to give kids, not so much like the ones that have made these like academic, but the ones that really, really work harder, that didn't maybe not got recognized because of their grades, but they were willing to work harder and put in effort. So basically we're making apparel, and we're using some of those proceeds to go back and fund different organizations that stem around drug abuse, mental health, different types of like cancer, even animal cruelty, and different resources. So that's what it's about. But it's also about finding the strength, in very stressful situations, and using that to grow from.
I love it. I love it. And thank you, by the way. I have MS. So thank you for that.
Okay. Well, we have shirts on there. If you go to strengthunderstress.com, you can see our shirt. It's for MS. I have
I will do that.
friends that have MS too. So Brittany, when she goes out, to one of her fights, she wears that, and we're looking at some other people too that are interested in that. So yeah, so different organizations. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so that's just one of the little things that we're working on. But we're actually putting together an event in Lamar to be November 30th. We've got it's a mental health and kind of wellness event. There'll be some speakers there. I'll be doing a keynote, but we've got several other speakers. So I don't know if anybody hears this or is going to be around in the end of November in Lamar. I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but
Unfortunately, probably not till next year.
okay, well,
I've got
fine.
quite a backlog, and I'm taking a little bit of a break between, during the holidays. So
Okay.
yeah, it'll be probably in January.
Okay.
What you got going on in January or February?
So we're also looking to put something together up in Denver. We may be looking to put an event together February or March, maybe.
Okay.
And it'll be somewhere up in Denver, and we may have some really good. So I'm also involved with a guy named Nick Santos Fanasso. You know him?
Nope.
He doesn't have any legs. He's only got one arm. He's only got one finger, and he's an incredible speaker. He's been on tour with Tony Robbins.
Okay.
He's got a group, and it's called Stage Masters, and he's taking these guys and teaching us basically how to become stage masters. So some of those people expressed interest in coming to these events because they're all on their journey of becoming motivational speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be putting something on that's going to be it'll be a super motivational event with some different opportunities. They'll probably some meal and dinner and a lot of great networking.
Okay. So nothing's set in stone yet. It's just something you guys are kind of putting together.
Yeah. We're looking at maybe we were thinking of maybe February or March, but I've got another granddaughter on the way coming in February. So
congratulations.
There'll be some time taken. My wife is going to take some time to go be with her. So anyway, we've kind of got to move some stuff around there. But
that's cool. I would love to be involved in that somehow.
Okay.
If only an attendee, I would love to be a part of that.
Okay. Yeah. As we move forward and start putting it together, then we'll be letting people know, because I think it'll actually be a really good event. And I've already, just from the ideas that I've been putting out there, I got a lot of good response and people that are willing to come from quite a ways away.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So anyway, yeah, we're looking forward to something like that. So we'll let you know.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and do you have a Facebook or?
So I do have Facebook. I also have a website too. It's just damonnichols.com.
Okay.
And it's got a page on there, a speaker page where they can go on and request me as a speaker at an event. We've got, I think there's my podcast page where I'll be posting podcasts, because I also do a podcast as well.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Called the Breakout Podcast. I haven't had
the Breakout Podcast.
The Breakout Podcast. It kind of follows along with my book.
Okay.
Where it's just kind of basically my course is the breakout method, where you break the cycle to overcome unresolved trauma.
Okay.
So breaking out of these cycles and beliefs, because one thing I found is my beliefs, my parents' beliefs are not really my beliefs anymore. Like they were for a while. Yeah, and all of that's changed. Some of them are, but like the way I look at money, the way I look at work, the way I look at relationships, so many different things. Even spirituality. My path on spirituality has been a kind of a crazy ride too. So that was it was big. God was a big force in me. Finding my way, and so, but I've been on a very spiritual journey as well too. So, and I really want to help people wherever I can. And I because I see now as have become so aware of all of this stuff, I see it in so many people, and I just it's like some people just scream like help me, and they don't even know, and victims. I see a victim of like
Yeah.
so many things, and so
Gosh, I feel like not that I had drug addiction issues or anything, but I feel like you're like in my brain with what you're saying, because it's like once you are awakened to this new way of life and this new, realizing the control you really do have over your life, your own life, maybe not other people. We don't ever have control over other people. And I think people maybe try to control other people because they feel like they lack control in their own life, but you have all the control over your own life. And once you realize that and you've started to reap the benefits of it, like you just want to share it, shout it from the rooftops and just be like, hey, we can all have this.
yeah, 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 because people
That's
don't
how I
realize.
feel.
Yeah, you give so much of your control away,
Yeah.
and you start realizing what can I control, what I am in control of, I'm in control of how I react to a situation.
Yes.
I'm in control of how I respond and how I treat people. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm in control of. So many things, and I've just had a lot of things just recently with jobs that I was supposed to go on where a lot of things were riding on this that didn't come through. And it's like it very one of them was just the kind of busted my bubble. Like I was like, yeah, this was a job a project that I really wanted and looked really good and I thought I had it in a bag, and then I got a call and said, no, you didn't get this. So it was but how I responded to it was,
And what you learn from it for the next one, right?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I think it'll pay off. I think it'll pay off, even though I felt a little hurt and a little bit like I wasn't. I felt like I was just completely disregarded, but I responded like, hey, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate that you let me, give me the opportunity to be part of this, even though it didn't work out, and hopefully, you consider me for the future. But then I got a great response back, so this may end up paying off later, and that's what I believe. In everything. I've had so many real estate deals that didn't go through, and I was like, oh, this was a game changer, but a little while later down the road, I'm like, wow, I'm glad it didn't work out that way. So there's
Right.
also a plan, and just because it
Yes.
didn't work out the way you want it doesn't mean it's
Right. But if
not.
you had responded, in a different way, screw you or, you screwed me over or whatever, then
Well,
that next opportunity would never come
yeah,
ever.
and so that's one of the things that I really got completely away from. It's like nobody will ever or has ever screwed me over. Like that's I don't care what you do,
Hmm.
you're not screwing me over. You know what I mean? Like
But a
so
lot of people would feel that way,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Most
And
people
they
and
might
that's
respond that way,
I
but they
spent
don't
yeah,
understand they're shooting themselves in the foot by doing that
yeah,
because now
well,
you've burned the bridge.
yeah. And you're a victim. Like
Now
I
you're a
choose
victim.
not to be a
Exactly.
victim
And you've
of any
let
of it.
them take your power.
Yeah, like so
Yeah.
it didn't work out. Like you didn't because most people don't intentionally mean that,
Right.
especially
Right.
in the business world. And when you
Yeah.
start taking that stuff personally,
Yeah.
I mean it's like then then that's why you're a business fault. Then that leads back to what trauma is causing you to take that personally, So it's
It
all
all
that.
starts with the self-awareness. It
Yeah,
really, really does. That's my belief is that it all starts with self-awareness.
yeah,
But it's hard. You know, we talk about all these things like, oh, life is so great and wonderful if you can, get to this point. And it is. There's no doubt about that. But it's not easy.
no,
It's
no,
easier to go back to what you know, and it's easier to keep doing the drugs or drinking the drink or whatever the vice is. Like it's easier to do that. This is not necessarily easy, but it's worth it
yeah.
and it's
Well,
possible.
And it's so much easier to look at others and not have to focus. It's hard
Right.
when you start looking at yourself. You start
Yeah.
looking
It's
at
hard to look at
yourself.
yourself. But once you get there, it's easier.
Yeah.
It's a
It becomes
hard,
easier.
getting over that hump, it might be a little difficult. And it takes courage
Mhm.
and strength to take that step and
Yeah.
keep taking those steps. But it's easier once you get to the other side.
Yeah. Then you can start looking at what part did I play in this?
Yeah.
You know,
And
and
that's when you really start going, I want to help other people get
yeah,
to this point too.
yeah.
I totally get it. I completely get it.
So yeah, so many years of being in, that's the one thing I can say in out of all of the halfway houses in treatment centers. And so I even went to a 2-year treatment center, which is Stout Street Foundation. Yeah, so I was in there for 2 years. That was and you're with these people 24 hours a day. It's 24-hour day therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn so much. But it's just all of the stuff, you know, through these different things I've learned, and I can see this. I as I see it in myself, and I start healing it, and then you see it everywhere. You see it
Yeah.
in everybody else.
Yeah. It's like the wool's lifted over off your eye, or
Yeah.
what is the saying? The wool's been lifted from your eyes, right? Is that the right saying?
Well, you
They
never
say
see
pull the
it.
wool over your eyes, right?
Yeah,
So the wool's been
you
lifted.
never see a red car uh, or Jeep until you buy one. Then they're
See
everywhere.
them everywhere.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
It
want
is
to.
like magic though. It is kind of like magic.
Yeah.
But it's not
Well,
magic. It's a lot of hard work and dedication and desire.
but I just feel like I spent so many years doing that and learning that now I can go out and really start helping people
And
do that.
share it. Yeah. I love though what you said at the very, very beginning about surrounding yourself with the people that are doing what you want to do, even if you're not yet. Like there's no reason you can't. You just put yourself in that world, and then you're gonna start learning
Mhm.
those lessons and the habits
Yeah.
and
Well,
becoming that.
they got a saying called "fake it till you make it," and
Hmm.
um, I don't think so much fake it, but if you can go in there and be part, and you just start surrounding yourself with that, then
Yeah,
you will
you will.
encounter imposter syndrome. You'll feel like
Yes.
you don't belong. You feel like you haven't achieved enough. You haven't done enough. I haven't, I'm not good enough. These people are out of my league, and I deal with that. Dude,
Hmm.
I go to these events and with some high-end multimillionaires and billionaires, and it's like I feel, there's times, but as I start spending more time around them, even then I can start seeing their little things in their lives, like,
Yeah. I bet you they're all experiencing imposter syndrome.
well, and that's you start seeing everybody has it.
Yeah,
Well, and
true.
and nobody will know, just like nobody knows when you're on stage, nobody will know you're nervous unless you tell them you're nervous.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I found out with Nick. He's like, I'm nervous as heck, but you didn't know it because I didn't tell you,
Yeah. Yep.
And so, but yeah, everybody deals with that, and everybody deals with if you're feeling something, other people are feeling or have felt it too, just others are better at hiding it, and as you build the confidence, you just
Yep. Well, you're probably just as good at hiding it as they are. You
I'm
know what I mean?
learning. I'm
They are
learning.
probably not seeing it in you either, but we feel it. We feel like everybody's staring at us, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. So, yeah.
Well, we always critique ourselves more than anybody else, and
Yeah. It's so funny. We're saying all these things. We're saying all these things. And I'm like, I've heard all of these things, maybe not my whole life, but certainly, a good majority of my life. And like the saying, misery loves company, or ignorance is bliss, or all of those things. And until you experience it for yourself, it's almost just a platitude or, But all of those things are, it sounds corny, and it sounds like, corny is not the word I was looking for, but it's cliche. It sounds
Yeah.
cliche, but they're all 1,000% true.
Yeah.
1,000% true.
Yeah. Well, it's the law of exposure.
Yes.
If you haven't been exposed to something, you wouldn't know it. But once you've been exposed to it, especially if it's something good, you don't want to go back. Like if you fly first
Mhm.
class, you're like, I don't ever want to fly coach again. You know, So there's like that's you don't ever want to go backwards. When
Yeah.
you reach a certain point and you have a lifestyle, you don't ever want to give up that lifestyle. You don't want to have
Right.
to go back and be like, okay, now I'm driving a nice car. I don't want to go back and drive a beater car again.
Yeah.
So but you keep moving forward, and you keep doing these things, and you keep getting in this and get involving yourself with those kinds of things, and life just gets better. It has
Yeah.
its ups and downs, but you find ways to deal with it easier, and you just become, I believe, more successful uh, by by doing these things.
So I feel like we maybe skipped a little bit of the story. So we go from, you're struggling with drug addiction. I think on your thing, methamphetamine, meth was kind of your drug of choice. Um, you had gone to some rehabs, you had quit because you had to, because you were in jail, all these things. And then we jumped to, you went to this real estate thing.
Yeah.
What was there anything in between that, I mean, because meth is physically addictive. I mean, there's like, you have to
Yeah.
go through withdrawal, you have to go through all those things. So what was that? What did that look like for you? How did you
So
accomplish that?
that was really rough for me. And when I first got arrested, I I still was beating the system. I was faking my UAs, and it wasn't until I got arrested again.
UA is urine analysis, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I was doing stuff to get past them,
Mhm.
so I wouldn't give a hot one. And then I ended up getting arrested again. At this time, they put a monitor on me, and it monitored everything, and it knew that if I was doing anything.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big one for me. And I'm one of those people that's like, I was buck wild and out of control with everything I did, and I took everything to the extreme. I still do, but like for me, it took uh, extreme, them having to pretty much lock me and monitor me to a point where, like that was when I what kind of forced me to have to change, because meth was, that is so hard.
Yeah.
But I knew at that point, it's like I can't. Like I was, I
So
was.
once again, though, it was because it was forced upon you. But
Yeah,
at the same time, you were going through something. You must have been going through something, saying, you mentioned it. You were tired of that life.
yes, I was. Yes, as hard as it was to make that change, I didn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
And like I said, I looked at who I was, and I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. And I was like, I hate what I've become, because that's not me. And I knew that, even though I had gotten a lot of trouble, and done a lot of stuff all my life, I knew I wasn't a bad guy. But I also looked at myself and was like, man, I hate who I've become. I hate what I've done. I hate what I've done to my kids, my family, my wife, the people that love me. So that was a big one, was to really have to look at who I was hurting. For some people, that's that that can be enough. Some of the things I have learned is, like, when you start really putting into perspective, who do you care about the most? and you put down those top 5 people, and then you start looking at what are they getting by you being high? Like, what person are they getting? What Damon do they get? For them, it's the strung out guy that's, I'm a liar because I have to lie to feed an addiction, like that all goes hand in hand. So I was a liar, and in some ways a thief. And, you know, I was cheating my family out of this. So all of that stuff is like, I don't want to do that to my family, because it was all going to be gone. That was my, you know, you continue on, you'll never get this again. And, I had one big loss when I was younger. My first wife, I was in a car wreck and she was killed. So I don't know how much I mean, I don't, I kind of put it in the book, but
It's on your profile. Yeah.
I haven't.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I was going to let you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's just another area of my life that I had to do a lot of healing around, and it was such a painful thing at that time because I had 2 boys, and they were left without a mom, and I was at that time I was strung out on meth and was trying to I was to the point of I was suicidal. I wanted to die, but I didn't want to take my own life. So I was dragging my kids around with me with that mindset, and it was horrible, until my brother came along and he took my kids. He didn't take them. It's like we had an agreement, and it was like the best thing that they could do was I let my brother and his wife take my kids while I went out and hit a couple walls really hard, and that's when I ended up going to Stout Street. So having to deal with that, and so as I went through Stout Street, that was such a big trauma that I focused on that because it was like that was something that I really had to try to get past. But then as I got out, and then I met my wife, which I met her, my wife now, Celeste. I met her in there in the treatment, but we didn't get together until after, like 6 months after. But she knew all of the little things about my past relationship. And, when somebody you care about dies, you only talk about the good things and you only really remember the good things. And it's hard to, like you don't really bring up all of the bad times and stuff like that. They were there, but especially when you talk to people or when you're sharing, you usually share all of the good stuff. And that's what I did. So then that made it really hard on our other, and then when we started our relationship, it made it really hard because, she wasn't the first, and, and I knew at that point that, like I have the capacity to love somebody. And as I got a couple years clean, I didn't really know what I was going to do. But then once we got together, like, what, maybe I want to try to start over and have another life and have somebody with me by my side. And when we got together, it was rocky and it was rough for a lot of years. But I also knew that, like, I don't want to have to do this again. And that was a big part of what kept me, or what made me change. We were both dealing with addiction, and we both came from really bad traumatic childhoods. So it was kind of a mix of, just a lot of really bad stuff. But, I'm so thankful that she has worked on so much. She has dug down and started healing these traumas. So we're both kind of on the same path. We've done. So that was the other thing too, is having somebody there that was willing to do. So that was, she was like willing to make those changes and be like, I'm gonna change my life and I'm gonna leave you behind and I'm gonna go on. And, you know what? She even served me divorce papers.
Oh, wow.
I'm changing my life. So that was another big motivator, was, you know, losing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was a combination of things. And for me, that's why I really hope I can help somebody not get as far as I had to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a vicious cycle, you know. When I was, you know, I got locked up when I was like 15, 16 years old for, you know, just stupid stuff. And then I got put on probation. And when I was 18, you know, I got so strung out on cocaine, I had broken 2 needles off of my arm and went to a month rehab. And then, you know, it was just long enough for me to get clean. And I got out and got in more trouble. And I got a 6-year prison sentence after that when I was 20, 21. So I went to prison for I was there for about a little over 3 years, you know, and then I got out and then I had, you know, I met Dion and then we had a family together and it did well for a while, but, you know, like I always kept going back to what I knew, and that was dealing with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know, and so when things got hard and you know, things happened in my business and I couldn't make ends meet, I went back to dealing drugs. And I know a lot of people that will do that. They'll get out, because I did it like 2 or 3 times. I went back to what I knew, and it was even worse because I learned how to cook meth, and then once I did, that opened a whole nother ball game for me, another door. Like, okay, not now I don't have to go buy it from somebody and resell it. I can go make my own and make money off it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, oh, it was something there that, you know,
You were an entrepreneur even back then.
yeah, I've always had an entrepreneur mindset, but it was just, yeah, it was in such a wrong way.
Yeah.
And I know once you cross that line, it's so hard to get back, because, you know, I've watched so many people. I don't even really have many friends left that were in that game with me. I mean, 1 or 2 people that managed to get through it. They're either dead or in prison, or they're still running the streets doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's an interesting thing too. You know, you've been to jail. I'm assuming when you got the 6-year sentence and did 3, that was probably a felony.
yeah, so I have 8 felonies.
Wow, that's a lot. Like that's a lot for someone to overcome. I feel like our society doesn't make it easy for someone to become successful once they have a felony. So can we talk about that for a minute? Like, what's
Yes.
that like when you come out? How do you get a
Yeah.
job? How do you be?
Well, so when I was living in Denver, when I got out of Stout Street, I had no place to go. And I didn't have a lot of money. I had a job. I didn't know anybody in Denver. I went through this program and I worked in a meat plant. So I was a maintenance guy in a meat plant. And the only people that I knew there were just the people that I worked with, and there was only a couple of them that spoke English. So I really didn't have much to do with anybody that was there. And then I was making, I don't know, maybe $500 or $600 a week, but I was putting in these applications for apartments, and every time I put in an application, it was like $25, $30, $40. You know, and I'm putting in applications everywhere, and like I must have put in $400 or $500 worth of application, and I got denied every time.
Every time because you had a felony.
Yeah, and it was so hard. You know, I had what at that time I thought was like really good jobs. I had a really good job as a PLC electrical technician in a plant that paid, you know, pretty big money. And I went through the orientation and I was supposed to start. They called me that day and said, we can't hire you because you have felonies. So like, yeah, it's hard. And but I also, that's one of the things I want to let people know is like, so I've got into tax liens. I bought and invested in tax liens, and that's something.
In what?
Tax liens, buying tax liens that.
Oh, tax liens. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes.
people don't pay their taxes, and you can go to these
Yeah, right.
auctions and you can buy them. You can pay the taxes. You can buy them. I've done multiple six-figure deals on properties where I bought tax liens for hundreds, as low as hundreds of dollars, and owned properties that I, put some money into and ended up turning for six figures. Where properties that I got, for a few hundred or maybe $1,000 or $2,000. So that's one of the things that's part of what my program is teaching people how to invest in things like that, where you can take a couple $100 here, a couple hundred, and you can put that money into these tax liens, and you're either going to get your money back with interest, which is way more interest than a bank's going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Money's just sitting there, or you're going to own a piece of property. So it's one of the things I talk a little bit about in my book, is teaching people how to do that.
Okay.
And the whole process of wholesaling real estate and flipping real estate, my main business right now is I travel around the country and I build storage facilities. So that's kind of that's been a really good. Right now, it's I've kind of hit a niche with that.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, I don't know if I got off on.
Well, it sounds like to me, and this is kind of a common theme I feel like I've from other people that I've talked to too, is that you kind of have to go into business for yourself and become an owner of something, because nobody else is going to give you, very few people are going to give you a chance.
It's so hard, but there's so many things. I've had people say, "Oh, you can't buy real estate because you're a felon. You can't vote."
That's not true though, right?
No, none of that's true.
Yeah.
So I know, like, I'm experienced at firsthand. I've bought and sold. I've done 50, 60 deals in the last few years. It doesn't matter. You can do, and there's ways around it. I have people tell me, "Oh, you can't get these kind of license. You can't," like, whatever. Tell me I can't. I'm going to find a way.
Yeah. Right. No, you probably can't become a lawyer, but
well, you
no, I think you can. Yeah. I know somebody who has a
do.
felony who became a lawyer. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So like, that's one of those things. It's like, don't take that for what somebody says.
Don't take no for an answer.
Like,
Don't
go
yeah.
find out for yourself.
Go find out. Yep.
Because you might find the answers different. Because right now I'm working on trying to get my rights to hunt back, and I'm not far from that, and I've got a lot of powerful people on my side that are willing to help me, which is judges, attorneys, lawyers, district attorneys, police officers, and stuff that are willing to help me because they've seen what I've done. So the process for getting your rights back is not that hard. It's just you have to jump through a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
And go through, like, basically you're trying to get a pardon from the government. If you get enough people to back you up, then you can. And if you get the people to sign off and stuff. And so I've kind of, now where I'm at, where I live, the judge that sentenced me to 8 years. Now, so I own a restaurant. And his wife, it used to be a house. His wife was born and raised in this house. And he spent a lot of time in this house. It was a dilapidated property for about 15 years. I bought it and turned it into a restaurant. And a couple months ago, he was in there eating with his wife and their whole family. And they were admiring the house. And I came up and I asked him, "You remember who I am?" And he was like, vaguely. And then when I told him, he was like, "Yeah, I remember." Yes, you remember you sentenced me to 8 years. He was like, "Yeah." I said, "I got something for you," and I got it. I gave him a book and signed it, and he was.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
so cool.
Awesome to be able to. I'm in my own. This is my house where my wife grew up, and now he's getting a book from somebody that he sentenced to 8 years.
Yeah.
So I've done this full circle, and now I'm looked at completely different in this community. So
yeah.
But when you continue to do those things and you intentionally want to, I didn't want to be looked at. I left here in 2001 in handcuffs and shackles, and I was not very well liked. I was a drug dealer, I was a meth cook, and I was just trouble. nobody wanted their families around me. Everybody's wife was like, I don't want you hanging out with him.
Yeah.
Whenever I came back, I wasn't very welcome back because they all saw me the way I left, and I had to prove it. But I started rehabbing properties and hiring people and doing things, and really trying to um, let it be known that I've made these changes, which
Hmm.
continue to help me. I've
Yeah.
done a lot of volunteer work. That was a big one for me too. In because somebody told me, like, if you wanna change the way you treat people, go down and volunteer at the soup kitchen. And I took that to heart, and I did, and I started going down there a couple times a week just to go hang out. And he said, when you go in there for one purpose, and that's to serve people, make people smile. And when I went in there with that mindset, and was like, how can I help you? How can I, no matter, like, you may be dirty, stinky, whatever, talking to yourself over the corner. But it's crazy because when you take the time to acknowledge somebody like that,
Hmm.
not that crazy. Most of them aren't. I found they got a story, they got to where they're at because of all of those things that happened to them. But when I started doing that, it really it changed how I treated people, and it changed how I looked at myself. And those are those are some really big lessons. They're part of what is going to be, you know, part of some of my requirements is of some of the courses that I.
Right. Yeah.
This is one thing I want you to do.
Hmm.
Go volunteer in a soup kitchen and do nothing but try to make somebody smile. And so it changes you. And those are like all those little things that like started making me feel better about myself. And the more sobriety I got, and the clearer my head got, the more it's like, okay, now I can see this vision, and now I can see all of this stuff happening that I couldn't see before.
There's one word that I haven't heard you say, and I feel like it is not intentional. But that word is forgiveness. Word has popped into my head multiple times as I hear you talking, because you have to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
You had to forgive yourself.
So that one was a kind of a big one for me. That one was forgiving myself was the hardest thing.
Hmm.
It was real easy for me to forgive people because I've pretty much forgiven everybody in my life for everything,
Hmm.
but forgiving myself was the biggest thing, because
Hmm.
I still have things that come up, and whenever I have to drive down the road where the accident happened, like,
Hmm.
that was a big one for me, and
Yeah.
that was like, because I only had to go down that road one time since then, and it was only because there was a detour, and I did not want to go, but it was the only way I could go, and I was just like, I went, through this, and it wasn't that long ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and that was the first time I'd been by there since it happened, and yeah, I had this rush of, guilt, shame, and so yeah, that's been a big one for me, but I work on it more, more and more every day because I know that even though it happened the way it did, like I would have, if I could have gone back and change it, I know it was an accident. I had
Hmm.
no intention of that.
Right.
So I really have to look at, you know, do I for a long time after that happened, I was in a world where I wanted to hurt everybody and everything around me. I was in so much pain, and it was only because I wanted somebody to hurt me, and like physically, I looked for fights, I looked for trouble, I looked for whatever. And now I'm like, how can I not, how can I bring joy to somebody? And
Hmm.
so that's all part of my journey, but I can't say that I'm 100% forgiven myself. but I've done a lot of work around that.
Yeah.
And
Well, I have no doubt you're still continuing to work on it. And it's probably a lifetime journey, right? We're never done working on ourselves.
yeah.
But I'm proud of you and I'm excited for you. And I really would love to be involved in this event that you're putting together. It sounds amazing. And if I can help in any way, let me know. Like I said, even if I'm just an attendee, that's fine with me. But if I can help in any way, let me know. I would love to be involved. And I know a couple other people that probably would here in Colorado, that are survivors that I think would like to be involved too. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'd love it. So you can, I'm on Instagram. It's Damon R. Nichols.
Okay.
My Facebook is Damon Nichols. Also, I have a LinkedIn, and then my website is damonnichols.com.
Okay. I really appreciate you taking the time with me today and hanging out so late. I appreciate on a Friday. I really appreciate
that's all right. Okay. Thank you
all right.
for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye-bye. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Without Regret, the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe. Leave me a review wherever you get your podcast. That would be really awesome because that's how my podcast is going to get noticed. So that would be a huge help, or share it on your social media would be awesome as well. Thank you so much. This podcast is a Without Regret production, which is produced by me. Artwork is by me. Everything's by me except for that theme song. That's by a guy named Michael Bruguglio. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Without Regret Podcast and on Instagram at without_regret_podcast. Thanks again.